Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is Blue Knight 7 of the Blue Knight Cast. Coming back here with episode 44. I did do some recording yesterday, but once I started uploading them, I realized that the sound from my mic did not carry over. Not really sure what happened, but we're trying it again. And though I tested it a minute ago, and I think it is working this time. But today I just wanted to focus on one interesting thing that may happen towards the end of the year. Partly inspired by, I believe today is the day, later today, that you can get a true, not a leak, first look at Grand Theft Auto 6. First on Netflix, followed by same thing being posted to YouTube later. Don't subscribe to Netflix if you don't already have it just for this, because it's going to be just a glorified infomercial anyway. Come on now. But still, just the thought about it had me thinking, and I did want to discuss this thing that may very well happen towards the end of the year as Grand Theft Auto 6 releases. And what is that? Well, we know Grand Theft Auto is releasing. I believe it was in November. I don't remember the exact date. And if you look at the releases of other publishers, other games for 2026, you'll notice they've all tried to avoid November by like the plague for the most part. And understandably so, because GTA 6 is probably one of the most anticipated games of all time at this point. People have wanted it for years. They've bought countless copies of GTA 5 in the meantime over the last, I want to say, 10 years or more. And so, yeah, it's right. The hype is rightfully where it should be. I wonder if the game is ultimately going to meet the hype in the end. It's some of the best in the business making this game, so it probably will. But still, I mean, it's a question. And even before we've had a few teasers, not a lot, but even before, we see like finally get sort of a deep dive, there's already been a lot of controversy with the game for a couple of reasons. One is that it's an all-digital release. Either you download it, you pre-order to download, which is that apparently has been a thing, like a major thing. I don't understand why you would pre-order a download months in advance unless you just want to make sure you had the money at the time. Which goes to the real big thing, is the fact that there's two versions. There's a base version for $80, and then there's a $100 upgraded version that kind of has all the things you would want your game of GTA, your copy of GTA 6 to have, like the shops and clothing customization and a lot of things you would just expect the base game to have, I would argue. But to each his own, I guess. And so Grand Theft Auto 6 seems to be doing two things that maybe Sony and probably a lot of other publishers wished they would do, which is to tank, put out a game with the high $100 price tag and make people pay that whether they want to or not, and push a major release as an all-digital release, whether people want it or not, to make it a little easier for everybody else to follow suit. I do believe that's part of this. There has been some backlash, but without question, there's also been people excited for GTA 6 no matter what. So I kind of question whether, backlash over those things I just mentioned, backlash over Sony phasing out physical Blu-ray releases for its games. I just question whether any of that is going to affect GTA 6 sales substantially in the end, because obviously this is going to be a multi-million seller by the beginning of 2027. But there is, I'll say a couple, but there is one game in particular that will most likely release near GTA 6's window. It hasn't been announced yet. Maybe it's not the same week. Maybe it's adjacent. Maybe it's going to end up being a different time altogether, but most people think it has to be. That is Nintendo's Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time remake. That game has had a little bit of history of its own. It's been rumored and expected for a while. It was finally teased in last June's Nintendo Direct. And generally speaking, it's had its own share of hype. I don't know if it's quite hit the same levels as GTA 6, but Ocarina of Time is considered by many to be one of the best games of all time. It was definitely the best reviewed, most critical acclaim of any game of all time at the time of its release. And generally speaking, this is a big deal too. So it all kind of begs the question, why would Nintendo clash with GTA 6 like that? Why would they risk lower sales on a Zelda game and hurting the brand image? Because clearly this GTA 6 is going to be a juggernaut. It's going to steamroll sales. Ocarina of Time, while it is a Zelda game for Switch 2, is also a remake of an older game. Not the same scale, It shouldn't have the same level of hype as GTA 6. It's not the same scale. Why put it up next to GTA 6 and let the sales be siphoned away? Everybody else is staying clear of it, right? And some would argue that part of the reason we haven't seen a 3D Mario yet, or seen one released this year, is they really didn't want to put it next to GTA 6. Maybe true, they're not idiots over there in Kyoto. But here's my thing, and here's going to be my take on the whole thing. My intention is just to give you my take on that whole situation. I think we're talking about two different tracks here. Because, and I'll give you a few reasons. One is, obviously, they both have their own dedicated fan bases. GTA 6, it's probably, in a way, it's probably one of the most mainstream of mainstream games. Everybody recognizes that name. Everybody knows who that is. It's almost like a Call of Duty or a Madden or, NBA 2K that does not come out nowhere near as regular as those other franchises. So it's drawing up more hype than usual because of that. Everybody recognizes it. It's got kind of a fan base, but it's more of the mainstream. Oh yeah, I want GTA 6, About anybody would say that. Legend of Zelda, it has that too, to an extent. But it also has this sort of a close, tightly devoted fan base following. Believe me, there are people who would buy the Zelda game over GTA 6 just because it's a Zelda game. They have those kinds of fans. And I do think there's going to be people that even know GTA 6 would cost $100. We don't know about Ocarina of Time yet. I do think there's people who would shell out $200 in November just to get both, or just, probably be less than that. But will shell out $200 or less in November just to make sure they got both of Um, Also note, there are, because everybody has stayed out in November for the most part. They're the only two real. They may be the only two. It's actually going to be three. I'll get to that in a minute. But there's only probably going to be about 3 games or a little more releasing in November. So competition for both is way down. Yes, that does help GTA 6 sell a few extra. Though I think the conversation has been more about GTA 6 will just steamroll them anyway. And it also takes competition away from Ocarina of Time. Now, I would argue, and I'm arguing this with a straight face, I do think the lack of releases in November will end up helping Ocarina of Time more than it does GTA 6 because, like I said, GTA 6 was going to steamroll those releases anyway. Ocarina of Time, I think it could steamroll too to an extent, but I think it may have had a little more friction against the competition, whatever competition would be out in November. So, I love Zelda, but I'm trying to be realistic here. So, I do think that will probably do more to elevate Ocarina of Time sales and make this more interesting. Now, just being real, do I think, and I'm just talking strictly about holiday sales right now, from say November 1 to Christmas to, with those games releasing in that window, let's say. Do I really think Ocarina of Time would have matching competitive holiday sales to GTA 6? I'm going to say no. Because it is a remake. PlayStation 5 install base for GTA 6 is larger, or should be larger, than Nintendo Switch 2 install base. So if every Switch 2 owner bought Ocarina, which a lot of people will, it'll have a high attach rate. But if every Switch 2 owner bought Ocarina of Time, I'd say GTA 6 would still sell more units for PlayStation 5. And I'm assuming obviously that one's going to have a high attach rate because if you have a PlayStation, you buy Grand Theft Auto. I understand that. I'm not an idiot. But I think that's kind of what I'm looking at. Like, of course, GTA 6 will sell more. But do I think Ocarina of Time will be a sales failure or set itself up for failure by putting itself next to GTA 6? No. Like I say, they're kind of in different groups, different tracks, different platforms, different install bases. And I think the people who really want Ocarina of Time will find the money to buy it, GTA 6 or not. That's just how I feel about it. I don't really see it as a competition. Some people do. I think it's going to be more of a coexistence. And, they're both... The only other thing I would say about it is they're both going to be kind of evergreen games for their respective companies. GTA 6 will sell games, continue to sell copies of its game long into, say, PlayStation 6 cycle. Ocarina of Time, pretty much any first-party Nintendo game, most of them at least, usually end up becoming evergreen titles where they will market that game for a couple years after it's released, and it'll continue to bring in some sales, even if it's small, for years after its release. Look at Mario Kart 8. Look at Breath of the Wild. Look at Super Mario Odyssey. That's always a thing with Nintendo first-party releases. Ocarina of Time will be an evergreen release for Switch 2 that sells for a while. I think Nintendo, even if GTA 6 was to steamroll it in the holidays, I think people will come back around, buy it in 2027. Nintendo knows that. So they haven't lost their mind. They just know it's going to work out in the end. Why worry about it? That's kind of how I see Nintendo's mentality about this potential juxtaposition. So instead of these, I'm going to step away from these two games a minute, and I'm going to encourage people to look at a third game where I think they might have lost their minds, but I still want the game to succeed. Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee remastered. It's coming to different platforms, but Switch 2 in particular. It's a remaster of the original GameCube game where you can play as different Godzilla and different monsters from the films. Old school Godzilla, old school monsters. Thrash it out in different environments, King of the Monsters style, and destructible environments, 3D. Yeah, that was actually a great game back in the day. I would love to see it remastered for Switch too. And yeah, I'm excited for that. And believe it or not, I will probably, for my Christmas list, about that time of the year, I quit buying games because I try to give people stuff to get me for a gift. I hope Teal Queen's taking the hint from this. Wink, wink, nod, nod. But, I would really love to see Ocarina of Time. I would really love to see Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee. I don't have a PlayStation, so we'll see whenever GTA 6 comes to the PC, but I'm probably not paying that much for that game. Sorry. I'm one of those that's not as connected to it. I can just say no. Maybe later when there's a sale. But that's kind of how I feel. So here's my plea to all those out there. If you can find a little extra money, buy Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee. That game deserves a remaster. It deserves another round, an encore. I would love to see some DLC where it gets the extra monsters that sequels to that game got. Or just remaster the sequels, I guess. But I would like to see this. It's had some overhaul graphics. I would love to see this on my Switch. So, help support Godzilla. Link will do just fine, I think. GTA 6 will do just fine. Support Godzilla. That's what the Blue Knight 7 asks of you. And with that, I'll conclude this episode of the Blue Knight Cast. I hope you enjoyed this. Well, I'll add one more thing. I'm kind of curious to see how this Netflix broadcast plays out, because they made it sound like it'll make sense when you watch it while they went on Netflix. I wonder if they're announcing a series along with it or something related on Netflix. Also, I wonder if there is going to be a difference between Netflix and YouTube insofar as censorship. Because I have seen some of the leaked clips, not all of them, but some of the leaked clips CyberLeak has dropped on the internet regarding GTA 6. They are really pushing the line between M rating and adults only rating, particularly in regards to nudity. I'll leave it at that. You know, some people don't want to be spoiled, some people don't want to. But I think they're really pushing some things along the lines of nudity. So I wonder if you're going to see some things on Netflix that gets blurred out on YouTube. There, I said it. So, yeah, with that, I really will conclude this episode of the Blue Knight Cast. Please like, subscribe, share, hype it, whatever you want to do, please do it. I am trying to grow the channel. I'll try to keep episodes coming more regular than I have. Hopefully the sound issue's been fixed, and I I'm not holding myself to a regular schedule at this time because I'm still trying to sort that out or trying to get in more of a rhythm. But I will try to continue to post episodes without too big a gap between them, if nothing else. So thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. And if you want to leave a comment, what do you think of this situation? And who do you vote for? Team GTA, Team Zelda, or Team Godzilla? Have a good day.